Good morning, YouTube and the audience. Hajim Zero here, back with another quick movie review. I'm gonna try to do this quick because I have a small feeling that my video is about to be interrupted, which I hope it doesn't because I really want to get in a deep discussion about this. I'm gonna try to do three, I don't know how you call it, three talking points. This movie is Equilibrium, starring Taye Diggs, Christian Bale, and Sean Bean, and I think the guy's name is Will Fletcher. It's directed by Kurt Wilmer, I believe. It's the guy that did the movie Ultraviolet with Mila Jovovich. So the three things I'm going to talk about, of course, is the movie itself, a possible fan theory, and I was sitting on the toilet and I came up with the last one, how it indirectly goes a little bit with what's going on today. So this is an action movie. This came out like in 2002. It was trying to live up on the hype of The Matrix a little bit. It had that neo dystopian black, white, and gray color tone a little bit, even to what the characters wear. There's only like a little bit of color in it. Pretty much the movie is about indirectly a super fascist government that wants to control the human emotion of the population, and they inject themselves with these drugs to keep it at bay so they won't feel any emotion anymore. And even in their society, I think if you have like more than six tracks of music or certain pieces of artwork, you get executed or it's technically condemned. And I say fascist a little bit because it is loosely to what's going on with our politics today. They do all this to get rid of war, exposition, every single bad thing that is known to human mankind. Um, and the main character, Christian Bale plays, in the beginning, he's partnered with Sean Bean's character, and he indirectly already knows, he was feeling a little bit, or technically he was missing his dosage. He missed his dosage on purpose, and he started to have emotion. Um, Technically more of the interest of reading a certain book. I think it was a Yeats book by Beethoven or something like that. It was like a classical book. And Christian Bale, of course, had called him. He eventually figured out that he had lied to him about burning, or confiscating the material. Then he went to go confront him and he had killed him. Uh, and then bit by bit, it went back to Christian Bale's character. He missed his dosage as well. And ironically, with Taye Diggs, he's technically the bad guy in the movie. He was talking about adjusting his, and it just really goes a little bit more into the fan theory, just a tad bit. So the cool thing about this movie, though, I will say, because I think if you get the DVD by itself, it tries to like shit on the Matrix just a tad bit. But to be honest, both pieces of product is really enjoyable. The ultimate fan explosion is just to have this movie, Wanted, and The Matrix all in one movie with the special effects and action and all that. But I think in this movie, they didn't use that many special effects. They had this fighting style called gun kata. It's kind of like using pistols, and you're shooting and switching the guns at close range, or it's grappling at close range, I should say. And it's technically about like, I think, three action scenes where it's you know, brilliantly executed. I think it was a scene where Christian Bale fights all the guards and he's surrounded. And then, if you want to count that shootout, I think it was really trying to mirror the Matrix a little bit. And then the final confrontation with him and his boss in that final fight scene, that's when you really see the grappling and moving and switching of the guns really come into play. And like I said, I could watch that a million times and still be entertained. Even the gun designs themselves look really well. They look like a cross between, a little bit, to me, it looked like a Desert Eagle, um, combined with, I think a Colt 45 is like a futuristic one. Like the front of the barrel, it looks like the Desert Eagle, except it's flipped upside down. If you people who love guns, you know what I mean. It has like it's a weird tip shape, but the gun is flipped upside down in the movie. And when I went to the convention, I think it was at Dragon Con, they had a replica of the gun and I was tempted to take it. So yeah. But that's pretty much the whole movie. There were certain moments where it did have plot holes, but at the same time it did slide into the fan theory. a little bit of what I'm going to talk about in a minute. But this is really one of the underrated movies, and I can see why Christian Bale had took this. You know, the more times I watch it, I see, you know, how they're supposed to be void of human emotion, but at certain times it does contradict itself when they catch someone who is feeling emotion, yet they're on this drug apparently that keeps them at bay. And the real poison, of course, is with the children in the movie. I think with Christian Bale's daughter in the film, I think she missed her dosage because she was displaying a little bit of a playful emotion with her food, and the brother was the one who was telling her to, stop doing that, and it just seemed kind of odd. So it really had this fascist, ideal that, we are law, we're going to tell you how to feel, think, and X, Y, and Z. And it goes a little bit into communism, a little bit, but more fascism. The government doesn't, in this movie, doesn't really control mostly of what they do. How I see communism is that they have you at gunpoint, yeah, instructing in your life to do this. It's kind of like indirectly like a prison. That's how I really see communism. Fascism is when they want to control your individual thought. But, you know, I may have said a bad definition of it or a misdefinition. You can correct me in the comments if you want to. So now we're about to move on to the fan theory. It was a fan theory going around that this is actually connected with the Matrix. If you've seen the Matrix, I think in the second movie, actually in the first movie too, when Agent Smith and the architect were talking about the different versions of the system, and this looks like one of them. If you really think about the Clementine cleric or the government soldiers that are in it, they could have been a version of the agents. And if you think about it, for people who have seen this movie, the Clementine cleric, like I stated beforehand, they didn't feel any emotion. They were much robotic. And then of course with Taye Diggs has said about adjusting his drug, so he can definitely have no more emotion at all. So if you look at it, when the architect was saying that one of the versions of the Matrix, or it could have been Agent Smith, he had said that there was one version where no one had suffered, but there was a problem. No one had accepted the program, and they couldn't come up with a code to define the perfect human world. And if you look at this movie, at the very end, Christian Bale, he comes off of his drug and he actually helps the resistance, and they rebel against this tyrannical government. And that could have been a version of how it wasn't accepted, and then at the same time, in the Matrix itself, Agent Smith had felt much more human, and then of course Neo had felt more machine. So, well, at least that's what some of the production notes had said. I got to see the movie again because I really didn't feel that from the Neo character. I definitely saw it with Agent Smith, and it was a nice little fan theory that somebody said about this movie online. And of course, with the Clementine cleric are wearing all black, and then symbolically at the end of the movie, Christian Bale, John Preston, the character, he's wearing all white, and it was really to symbolize a little bit of his freedom, if you want to call it. Star Wars has done this too. If you look at the Empire, they're actually wearing the Nazi colors. And then, of course, with Luke in Return of the Jedi, he was wearing all black. And then it was revealed under the veil, it was a lighter color, which signified the whole purity of him. And you see his transitions throughout the whole trilogy. So, there's so many fan theories and connections with all three of those movies I just mentioned. But again, this was one of the interesting science fiction action films. I even took inspiration from it a little bit with the whole fascist idea, and then a little bit, if you read one of the Batman comic books, I think it was Dark Knight Returns, where they were saying that Batman could have been a fascist because he was saying pretty much that whole RoboCop thing, I am the law, you do what I say or you're gonna die, so, or be punished. So you can use that as a parallel too. It has some really good moments in this. I think the biggest moment where Christian Bale had finally realized that, his character was completely, messed up was when he had the interaction with the puppies, with the Saint Bernards. And of course, I definitely would have had some heartstrings because I love dogs. I love, my mom and I, we were talking about Saint Bernards the other day, how adorable they look. But of course, they're freaking expensive to keep up. So I think that was the main turning point when he realized, okay, yeah, this life sucks and there's something I got to do, to pretty much have a better life, because there is much more out there. Pretty much it was like a whole cult thing. They were really programming these people up. They had this guy named Father who was broadcasting, 24/7, telling them how to feel, see, and think, and he would tell them to put in the drug. But come to find out that that cult leader had died years ago, and the council had appointed the boss, the final confrontation boss at the end of the movie. But this is one of the underrated films. Of course, it didn't have a sequel. Some people say Ultraviolet could have been the sequel. I haven't seen Ultraviolet, so I can't really say anything about that. But the last talking point, and this one might be controversial. So what I just said in the movie, how we're supposed to be void of all emotion, and this, that, and the other. So in the film, they were taking the drugs, and the whole plot of the film is to have no emotion, because it causes war, strife, rape, everything bad, with the human, dichotomy. And if you look at our media today, that's how it technically is. A lot of social justice warriors, a lot of people getting hyped up over certain things, and this is all of it is online. No, don't get me wrong. There are some vindictive people out there who are straight up racist assholes, or they're just some messed up people. But we can't have a conversation anymore, about some truthful things without people getting offended. And even the other person isn't even trying to be offensive. He's trying to actually say some kind of truth. And I even got into it a little bit this morning. Well, I didn't get that much into it because I let them keep the argument, but I'm not going to talk about what we were talking about. It's just the fact that all this is online. This is not face to face, with, me talking to someone about the problem. And at the same time, people don't see perspective at all, So, and even one of my ministers was saying this, or pastor, that's using the wrong word because I go to Catholic church with my mom sometimes, and even the father was saying that they do all this to create some kind of divide in this country, or to just divide in general. And it sucks because the media is technically responsible. They're getting paid off of some of this nonsense that they be saying, and they don't say all the facts, and people just get hyped up in their emotions, and then that transitions into something else. So nowadays, me personally, I've done a better job at not jumping to conclusion. And I wait and I hear all the facts, and it just sucks that, like I said, the media really doesn't care. They're getting paid off of the shit, regardless of if they leave something out or not. And then there are other media news outlets that even admitted that when they were working at some of these places, that they told them not to say certain things because it doesn't fit a certain algorithm. So it's just shit like that that makes me mad. Like, of course, reporting it is one thing, but actions also mean a hell of a lot of bigger, altitude with me. You can say words all day, but unless you put in the work and do the action behind it, it doesn't really mean shit. So, that was my whole technically review. And like I said, 3, transitions, whatever you want to call it. I did just wake up, so my wording kind of does suck, but I had my moments. And I will see you guys next time in the next review. I think it's going to be Imposter, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.